Alright, so first things first, we have our desk here, and this is of course another IKEA desk. IKEA prices are pretty hard to beat, especially for desks of this size. This is an all-white 47-inch Linman desk from IKEA with matching white legs right there, of course. It looks kind of glossy, but that's because there is a plastic wrap on it right now. I haven't taken this thing out of its packaging yet, but I'll do that in a second. We're gonna be obviously using a dual monitor setup today on this desk, and I would have preferred a 55-inch desk for that, but the 47-inch was better for the price, so we went with that. I have used 47-inch desks before for dual monitor setups, and it's been perfectly fine, so that shouldn't be a problem. But yeah, basically on the back of this desktop here, there are some little screw holes here, and those little legs will screw into these holes with the supplied screws. Pretty easy, there's not much to it, just gotta put those legs on and then we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera real quick. I'll get this whole desk set up and then we'll move on to the monitor stand. All right, the desk is all put together now. They got the legs on and it's set up where it's supposed to be. Now we're gonna go ahead and set up this Huanyuo dual monitor desk mount. I've used this exact one on my actual main setup in my real room, and I like it enough that I bought another one just to use in these videos. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of its box really quickly, and I'll kind of show you guys or explain to you guys what I'm gonna do to install it. All right, so here's the dual monitor arm that I was just talking about and showing you guys. You can kind of see what we're working with here a little bit. So this is the actual arm itself. You do have to do some assembling with this, but it's not too complicated. So basically, this part right here will clamp onto the back of the desk like that. And then basically, these pieces right here will bolt onto the back of your monitors, assuming you have VESA mounting capabilities. And then these will hang off of these little platforms right here. You just take off these little nuts and you hang it onto this and then re-secure it with that little nut. Pretty simple. It sounds complicated, but it's not, and I'll show you guys more about that here in just a second. So now we're gonna take a tape measure here and just measure out half the length of the desk. That will be the center point, obviously, and that's where we will mount this arm at in the back. Once that's done, I'll show you guys the monitors that we're gonna be hanging off of this thing, and we'll get all that stuff set up, and we'll go from there. All right, I got the arm installed on the back of the desk here. You can see we're sitting at about just over 23.5 inches. This desk isn't exactly 47, it's a bit more than that. So we got that installed, it's clamped onto the desk. Now I can go ahead and show you guys the monitors we're gonna use to hang on here. All right, so here is the monitor we're gonna be using for today's build. You guys might have seen these before if you follow my channel. These are my 24-inch curved AOC monitors, 1080p, 144 hertz, 1 millisecond response time. Just about as good as you can get for the price. These are about 150 bucks each. Now, in order to use these monitors with this dual monitor arm on here, we have to take off the stand first. To do that, there is a little button underneath the stand. You guys can't see it on the camera, but you just press it and then pull up and backwards, and the stand comes off just like that. Here you can kind of see a bit of a close-up shot. Here's a little button I was talking about. You just press that and it releases those tabs, which releases the stand. So now we have to install this little back plate here that comes with the monitor arm. This is what's going to hang the monitor off this arm here. Basically, this little top piece that sticks out will hang off of it like that. But first we need to screw this into the monitor. So you can see my monitor already has 4 screws pre-installed here. The orientation is important, so we have to check this out first. You want this little tab that sticks out to be facing the back of the monitor and facing up. So you can see it's right here. We're gonna mount it on the back just like that. You can see the AOC logo is at the top of the monitor. We want this little tab to be at the top as well, and just mount it like that. So we'll take those 4 screws and just screw it into place, and then we'll do that with the other one as well, and then we will hang them up on the arm. Okay, both monitors have their little arm backing plate things installed on them. You can see we got the 4 screws holding each of them on both of them. So now we have to install them onto the actual arm itself. So here you guys can kind of see a bit of a close-up shot of what we're working with here. Basically, we're gonna take off a little nut on the top, and then we'll simply take the monitor and we're just gonna slide these 2 little side clips over this piece. so it'll kind of hug the back of it. And then the upper tab right here will go around this little screw post here, and then you'll take the nut and you'll screw it back on. That way it doesn't fall off. Probably sounds pretty confusing, but I'm going to show you guys a bit of a clip here of me hanging one of them up. That way you guys kind of have a visual to go by. So I'm going to do that real quick, get both of these hung up on the stand, and we'll be right back. Alright, so it's literally been 3 weeks in real life since I actually last touched this setup, but as you guys can see, I got the monitors all set up on their stands and they're all tightened up and all that stuff. As you can see, there is a small crack between the two monitors here. Once we put the LED strips on here in a second, you'll see that like crazy, and it will drive me absolutely nuts. So we're going to fix that in just a second, so don't worry too much about that. I don't have any of the wires installed yet for the monitors, but when I do put them on, they will run through these little cable managers right here. They're on both sides. That way you can just run the cables out from the back and around the side and then down behind the actual pole that holds these up. That way you won't see them behind the setup at all. I'm probably not going to show that too much on camera just because it's a waste of time. You guys can figure out how to do all that on your own. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and install our LED strips and fix this crack between the two monitors here. So let's go ahead and do that. So to fix this little crack between the two monitors here, we're going to use an old trick where we're just going to take some black electrical tape and stick a piece along the height of the monitors. Since these monitors are black and we're using black tape, it'll hide the crack between the two monitors from the front. So when we put the LED strips on along the back, you won't see it flashing through the two monitors here and it won't drive you crazy. So this is pretty easy. Just take your strip of black tape and then just stick it between the two monitors, just like so. And now from the front, you can see there is no little crack of light between the two monitors. And from a distance, it looks perfect. So now when the LED strips are on, you won't see them through this little crack right here. It'll all look way better like this. Speaking of LED strips, we're using these Pangton Villa, hope I said that right, LED strips. I've used these before in a lot of my setups and I really like them. They are extremely cheap on Amazon and they work really well. They're super bright. Obviously it comes with the RGB controller that you can adjust the brightness, the color, the flash pattern, all that cool stuff at an amazing price. So to install it, we're just going to take off this little adhesive protector and then we will stick it along the length of the monitors and then we'll turn it around the side and then come back along the bottom as well. That way we have a nice reflection off the wall once these things are actually powered up. So I'm going to go ahead and install these with the adhesive backing onto the monitors and I'll show you guys more of what I'm talking about once I actually get these installed. Alright, so these strips are installed here on the back of the monitors as you can see. I also use some clear packing tape, this stuff right here, just to help secure it in place because the adhesive on the back of these strips tends to fall off over time. There's no real particular way you need to install this because the lights will be reflecting off the wall, so it'll look just fine no matter what. I went for one strip across the top, wrapped it around this side over here, and then did another strip along the bottom, and then just brought it up. I ended up using the entire length of this strip of LED lights. If you do want to shorten this up, there are little sections here that you can unplug, or if you want to cut it, you can cut it right here with these little copper strips. You just cut on the line, and it'll work just fine. Alright, as for the keyboard and mouse, we're going to be using this Red Dragon S13 keyboard and mouse kit. This is a mechanical keyboard with a matching RGB mouse. Here's the back of the box for any of you guys who care. Obviously, links will be in the description down below for all the products used in this video, especially this mouse and keyboard kit. So, cracking into the box here, first we have the mouse. The lighting doesn't really show this too well, I apologize for that, but of course this is the S113 KN RGB lit gaming mouse, pretty cool. So obviously given the price, this mouse and keyboard combo kit is not going to be the most high quality thing you've ever used before, and certainly there is room for improvement. I'll give you guys a bit of a sound test here. Hopefully you guys can hear that, but it does have a bit of a metallic clang to it that most higher end keyboards won't have. But for the price, I cannot complain. And once we get the PC in here, we'll get this all fired up and we'll see what the LED backlighting looks like on this keyboard, as well as the matching mouse down there. One of the hardest parts for me about these setup builds is figuring out how to route the wires for the mouse and keyboard on these cheaper, lower end setup builds. And it's no different with this build. I would love to drill a hole in this desk and run the cables down and underneath it because that would look the most clean. However, I need to keep this desk in good condition because I need to use it for future videos as well. So I'm not going to drill a hole in this desk, but if you wanted to, that's absolutely an option. But for the sake of this video and this desk, I am going to stick with my usual route of taking the keyboard and mouse cable, routing them straight back to the monitor stand, and then splitting them off the side. I'll show you guys the finished product here in just a second. Alright, so the keyboard and mouse are all wired up here and ran to the back like I said I was going to do. We're just using some small little zip ties to hold the two cables together. And in the back here we have a little adhesive rubber wire, I guess, organizer there. And then in the back it'll just run and drop off the back side of the desk, which will be perfect. That way I can run those cords to the PC in just a second here. But the mouse cable runs underneath the little rubber foot on the bottom of the keyboard in the back. You guys can't see it, but basically the cord just runs back there underneath the keyboard. That way it doesn't pop out and it doesn't look all bad and stuff. Now there's still enough cord left here to comfortably use the mouse, and even if there wasn't, you could still just pull this out a little bit, and that way you have full range of motion with that new mouse there, so that's perfect. That'll work great. Alright, so as for the last desktop accessory, we have the headset here. This is an MPOW EG3 Pro gaming headset with a microphone included. So the problem with today's setup is that these two monitors right here pretty much take up the entire width of the desk, and there's not a whole lot of room in front of them to actually place a headphone stand. And the other problem is I don't have any kind of headphone hangers that clip onto the desk right now, so I'm not going to be able to actually include these in the setup, but I will add these to the price so you guys can purchase them and figure out your own way to mount them. You could easily put a headphone stand in the back of the monitors or up front here. I just don't think it'll look very good for the video, so I'm just not going to actually include these in the actual design. But like I said, I will include the price of this in today's budget so you guys can still purchase this if you do decide to follow this build. So as for the heart of any gaming PC build, we have the actual PC itself. This is my $500 budget gaming PC. I made a video a few months ago of me actually building this thing, so if you guys want to see how to do this and how to build this yourself, there's a video on my channel. You guys can go and check that out. So once we get this PC wired into the back corner of the setup build here, it'll have a nice LED glow out of the front, and it'll match the LED strips behind the monitors, as well as the backlighting in the keyboard and mouse, so that'll look pretty cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing wired up real quick, get the monitors all fired up, all that stuff, and I'm gonna get the keyboard and mouse RGB lighting all taken care of. I'll get that looking all cool, and then once I get everything all set up, I will meet you guys back here to show you the final product of today's build. Alright guys, here we go. This is the final product of today's build. It's kind of hard to see with my studio lights on, but I'll turn those off in a second so you guys can see what it looks like. But here we go. Here is the Red Dragon S113 with the matching mouse and keyboard, of course. You got the LED backlighting on the keyboard and the mouse itself. Apologize if the LEDs look shaky, it's just the way the camera picks it up. Everything looks perfect in real life for me. You can see the $500 gaming PCs down here doing its thing with the LEDs. That'll look way better once the lights are actually off. Anyways, yeah, you guys can see I got the monitors fired up with my logo on both screens. These are all fired up, the PC's fired up. You guys can't really tell, but these LED strips are also working in the back here, as you can see. They're on the fade setting. So I'm gonna go ahead and shut my lights off here and show you guys what this beauty looks like with the lights off. Alright guys, here we go. Now the lights are off in my studio and you guys can kind of see what we're working with here now. You can see just how bright the keyboard and mouse LEDs are. Again, the shakiness is just from my camera. It's not actually doing that in real life. You can see just how bright these LED strips are. They are extremely bright. I might actually have to use the LED controller to turn those down because they're just so crazy. It looks really good in person. I can't really explain that to you guys because the camera picks up light differently than it does in real life, and of course the PC is down here and it looks really, really good, especially having those LEDs bounce off the reflective legs on the desk. It looks super cool. That is awesome, and it matches the setup perfectly. So anyways, there you guys go. That is today's dual monitor complete budget gaming setup build. Again, if you guys have any suggestions on how I can change this setup, leave a comment down below, and I'll be happy to look at your suggestions and possibly incorporate them in my next setup build. With that being said, thank you guys all so much for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next build.